Hello everyone and welcome to the first installment of PNW English's In the Spotlight. In the Spotlight is a new segment where we will be interviewing a variety of individuals who are involved in the English department here at Purdue Northwest. My name is Brenna Uporsky. I am a current undergrad in the English department myself, and I'm also their social media assistant. When I decided to create In the Spotlight, I was thinking about this disconnect that's out there that I've noticed between all of these amazing people, the students and the faculty and alumni who have been impacted by being an English major and being involved in the world of English in general. And they have so much to say about it, but they don't really have an outlet where they can express all of these thoughts and experiences that they've had. So hopefully these interviews will help close that gap. You can stay up to date with In the Spotlight and everything else happening at PNW English by following us on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, without further delay, here is our first interview with current undergrad Brooke Regier. So, hello.
Hello.
You can go ahead and start by introducing yourself, your name, the campus that you're normally at, the year that you're in currently, and your major.
Okay, I'm Brooke Regier. I am an English writing major, so writing for my concentration. I'm what's that word? I'm on the Westville campus. I'm on the Westville campus most of the time. I have taken classes in Hammond though because my major is based out of Hammond, but I've gotten away with taking a lot of online classes, so I'm mostly on the Westville campus, and this is my last semester.
Wow.
Yeah.
Coming to a close then.
Yeah.
That's scary but exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So that gives me a lot to work with then, because my next question is, what exciting things have you done during your time here as an English major? Have you been involved in organizations or events or anything?
Yeah, I think because I'm an English major and because of the flexibility and freedom that it allows me, I've been able to do a lot outside of just classwork that I've really enjoyed. So I'm an editor for the newspaper, which has been fun. We're getting to know that side of writing has been really interesting, and then also just like the editorial side of a newspaper has been super cool. I have also gone on a lot of trips, so studying abroad, even though that's like pretty common, I've been able to do it twice, and then I'll do it again in this semester. So being able to study abroad so much because of the flexibility in my major. So I've taken one traditional trip in the summer, and then another one that was, I planned it and I had people supporting me. So it wasn't on the website. It wasn't like a traditional, this is a PNW led trip. It was just, this is what I want to do. And I asked PNW if they would support me, and they did. And so being able to do that and not having such a rigorous plan of study that I had to stick with was really big in doing that and completing that. So my study abroad is something that I'm really proud of, that I've been able to do because of the English department. And then also, when I studied abroad in Bosnia, I worked with Heather Fielding to do research on the Bosnian War that happened in the 90s. So I researched that and then worked on a long form article that we edited and completed, and then I'm going to work on getting published soon. So there have been a lot of things that I've been able to do because of the English program and the department that haven't necessarily been involved in academics, but stuff that I'll be able to put on my resume and take away from my university experience that I'm proud of.
Yeah, that's awesome. That leads me into my next question pretty well, actually. What is it about being an English major that you like, maybe compared to other major paths that you could have taken but then chosen not to, or just reflecting back on it? Are you glad that you chose to be an English major, and what parts of it are what make you think that?
Yeah. So something that I really, really love about the English major is the flexibility and freedom. I always say that like no two English majors get the same degree because, you can take so many different classes. Like my major requires me to take 12 English writing classes, and I could take I could request that this random writing class be made into one of those, and so I've taken 12 writing classes, but they're really different than a Hammond campus student and what they would get for this degree. So I really like that it's very different and it can be catered to what I want to learn. So I'm taking a writing for video games class. I never play video games, but like I thought that would be a really cool thing to know how to do. And I'm also taking like a business writing class and a poetry class. So it's very different and like very diverse that I'm able to get training in all these different areas, because I don't really know what I want to do. So being able to be trained in all these different areas is something that I really love about the English major. I also really love that the classes are more discussion-based and project-based rather than lectures and tests. My brain just doesn't respond to lectures or tests. I could tell you all the tests I've ever taken, but like, and the scores I've gotten on them, but like, if you ask me to like say anything about the content of the test, I would have failed the day after. But like, being able to talk about like a project or a paper that I've written, those just really stick with me, and that's definitely how I learn best. And so I really love that about the English major.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next question. How has being an English major impacted your life so far? So this you can answer to sort of just impacted your life overall. How has it helped or benefited you in your just personal and overall academic life, but also how has specifically our English program impacted you specifically? What makes us special?
Okay. I think overall it's been very impactful in that I've produced things and had feedback, and we've gone through workshop on it, and I've had to sit in a classroom and be quiet while everyone else tears apart this piece that I've written. And it's impacted me in the way that like the world isn't like that. It's if I self-publish something on the internet, the only thing I'm gonna get is good feedback because other people aren't gonna read it or whatever. They're just gonna not say anything or say something bad about me behind my back, and so I'm getting no good criticism and nothing of substance that I can take and say this is gonna make me a better writer. It's just, oh wow, Brooke, this is great, and they share it to their timeline or whatever. So being able to produce something and then get substantial comments on it has really taught me that like I'm not so good at writing sometimes, but I can be a bad writer but a great reviser, and it'll be okay. You know, as long as I have people around me who are willing to read what I have written and give me good comments on it and help me in that way. So I think that my time as an English major, but more specifically at PNW, it's just woken me up to the reality of writing, and that it's hard and it's rigorous, but you need people around you to make you even better. And so I'm grateful for how I came into this major, in that I was very optimistic and idealistic, but that was crashed pretty quickly, and it was hard at first, but now I'm very grateful that I was put in those classes where people, tore apart my work in a loving way and in a way that was to make me better. It wasn't ever malicious or anything. I say tear apart like very lovingly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big way that I think the major in general has impacted me, and then also just specifically PNW and all of the workshop based classes that they provide has been really awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, super important to have as a life skill in general.
Yeah.
So especially as your time here overall is coming to a close. I'm sure you're thinking a lot about the future. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you what you're going to do. But what I want to know is, once you've settled into your adult life, your career life, however that takes you, regardless of what it is, and you look back on your time here, what is it that you'll remember? I mean, you can get into specifics of instructors or just life lessons that a book you were assigned to read taught you. It can be anything, really.
Yeah, there have been so many things. I'm a very introspective person, and so, it was like much more emotional than it should have been. Like my last day, or my last first day of the semester. So yeah, I've already started thinking about that and thinking about what I'm going to take away and who I'm going to stay in contact with and all this stuff. And I think just the most vague answer I could give you is just the people that I've met here. Instructors that have like really, really helped me along in my process of becoming a better writer, and then also like classmates who have I have notes in my phone of different comments that different classmates have made about pieces that we're workshopping, and some of them aren't even good, but they're just comments that I'll always remember. Like one time, someone who he wasn't even like, we wouldn't hang out after class or anything. It wasn't like we weren't friends, but we just like weren't close or anything. And he read the piece I had written. It was a fiction piece, and he said, I was just kind of surprised that these characters are so weak. So he was, saying that I needed to do better in something. But he said, I'm so surprised that these characters are so weak, because Brooke usually writes pretty vivid characters. And even though he was telling me I needed to do something better, I was just so like encouraged that he had noticed over the past few pieces that like I have a skill in writing characters, and I had never heard that before, So just I have that written in my phone, along with like other random comments that people have made, and I haven't talked to him since he graduated, since that class, So there have just been specific people along the way who have said small things that I'll always remember that I'm really grateful for, including instructors. I mean, Bethany Lee and Sarah White have been, they've just been so huge in this whole process, and big reasons why I stuck with the English major. I definitely wanted to quit after certain classes with different content in it that was difficult for me at first in my freshman year, but because of people like them, I was able to stick with it, and it's so much bigger than a job for them. I don't feel like they're their student. I feel like their friend. They treat me like that, which I so appreciate. And I know that like after I graduate, I'm still gonna have them as a mentor type person to reach out to and talk to about different things. So I think that the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this, and in 30 and 40 years, I'll be able to look back and be grateful for the time that I've had here, but also just be grateful for the people that I've met and just the lives that have crossed because of my years here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you had mentioned a minute ago about writing a paper that is in the process of getting published, which is extremely exciting and probably a little nerve-wracking. Can you expand on that? How did the paper come about, and what's the process?
Yeah, so the paper, the reason I studied abroad in Bosnia for the semester was because I had this research question. It was, what happens to people who were born after a war and were raised in a country where the effects of the war are still relevant and they can still see them, but they never fought in the war. And so I had that question, and it's a long story of how I got to that question. But so I had that question, and I took it to different people, and they supported this trip, and so I was there and I was doing the research, but I had no idea what was going to come of it. I'm not a researcher. I'm in no way a traditional researcher, in that I had no research methods. So like psychologists probably would have like turned in their grave if they had seen the ways that I was researching this. But I didn't realize it then, but I was approaching it from, you know, a creative's point of view, in that I was looking for the stories, and I was looking for the different ways that stories connected, and I was looking for the narrative arc. But I had no idea when people were asking me questions about, you know, qualitative research and all of this stuff. And so when I got back after I'd gotten all of this information, it was 4 months of information that I had gotten from, you know, being there with these people who I was interviewing and researching. I had so much information, but I had no idea what to do with it. And so I went to Heather Fielding, and she looked at my paper and she said, you know, Brooke, you're creative. You need to write this in a way that uses your creativity and gives you that space to work. And so she suggested long form. And so that's what I ended up doing with it. I changed it completely, almost deleted my whole first draft, you know, of one that I could get published in like a scholarly journal. It would have done poorly in those journals, but because I was able to restructure it, it highlighted the writing styles that I'm good at, and really that's how I researched it. And so the stories were what I knew most about, and so being able to share those, it made the research a lot stronger. And so now I have this paper, this really long paper, that, you know, I would like to get published in some way. This is like the prime time for publishing. So even though I went on the trip a year and a half ago, and I finished the paper like a year ago, I had to wait a little while to get it to start like putting it out there and trying to get it published. So that's where I'm at now. In that process, and so we'll see if it actually gets published. If not, I mean, there are lots of other things I could do with this research, and even just, you know, publishing it on my own would be something cool, just to get what I've done out there and get those stories out there, because that's really what was important to me. And this last fall, during the semester, I went with the honors college to Boston. It was the National Collegiate Honors Council, so it was just a national collegiate conference, and I was accepted. My Bosnia research abstract was accepted, and so I was in a room presenting my research with a bunch of other researchers who all had, you know, research methods and all like abstracts and all this stuff, because they were psychological researchers or they were in biology, and they had done all this stuff to complete their research, and they all had these fancy poster boards that were printed, and they had their thesis on it and everything. And I showed up and I had a poster board with square photos taped to it of Bosnia. So just all these photos of Bosnia. No title and no thesis, nothing.
Just an Instagram page.
Yeah, essentially it was just an Instagram poster. So I had that, and, you know, stood by my poster, and everyone who walked by, they like made a funny face at me because I didn't have a thesis and I didn't have a title, or, you know, I broke every rule that they gave me, but it was for the sake of art, essentially. So a lot of people responded really well to that. They commended me for like being brave. I didn't think I was being brave in that, but I had a story to tell, and there were no words on a page that could tell that story. And so I chose to do photos, and I got a lot of good feedback. I didn't win anything because I broke all the rules, so which I was okay with. But yeah, that was something really exciting that came from that research because of the English department and the honors college, but specifically Heather Fielding and her pushing me to try to get this published, and also just to put it out there anywhere. You know, I presented it 3 different times in the spring, because Heather Fielding was pushing me to do that, and I'm really grateful for that. because of all the feedback that I get each time, and it's made the paper pretty strong, or even stronger, because of all that feedback. So that's where I'm at, and I'll probably graduate without, like, I could graduate without it getting published, but I'm going to continue trying just because it's something that I've worked really hard on, and what a lot of people have worked really hard on. Like, Heather Fielding has put in a lot of time with this, and the old dean for our honors college has helped a lot, and so yeah, that's been something very tangible that has come of my time here in the English department.
Yeah, that's awesome. Something that I got from you, that I perceived from you telling that story, was I hear a lot of people saying that getting an English degree limits you to a certain extent, because the degree only requires you to take writing and literature courses, and that's a pretty big misconception. And I think that it's not even so much people telling others that, but it's just sort of this notion that you learn in a way, because it's part of the arts, right? It's, why get an arts degree if you're going to go to college? Make it something that's going to count and get you money. But it's interesting that you surrounded yourself by the people who are in those types of fields, and as a creative mind and everything, and I feel like that helps people realize that there's space for you out there as an English major. And it's interesting too that earlier you mentioned that the different classes you had been taking gave you training, and I think that's a really important word to use too, because a lot of people see our syllabus for a class and see, the yellow wallpaper, the matrix, and they feel like all of this is just throwaway knowledge. But it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, for real. It really is. I think that literature is so important, and so is the craft of writing. And people think they know how to do it, sure, but like really, they haven't been trained in a way that is looking at literature and now looking at modern writing and seeing how those need to marry before we go forth, because literature is so important, but we kind of just see it as like a pastime or a hobby. And people who are English literature majors, people are always asking, like, what are you going to do with that? When it's a great starting point. I think that I chose English personally because of how far I could take it, and the different directions I could take it. And I don't believe the lies that say, we can't go anywhere from here, all we could do is teach English in high school or college. Like, that's very wrong. And I think that it's important to the English major is very important, and the need for literature and the need for writing, it's everywhere, and people don't even realize it. So yeah, I think that it's so important that people continue in the English major.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, that is all the questions I have for you.
Awesome.
So thank you, Brooke, for meeting with me and talking about all this. I think that it's a big first step to take towards what our goal with this in the Spotlight thing is.
Awesome.
We want to show people what an English major can do, even just in your time in college, not just after college, because those 4 years or however many years it takes are just as important in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.